Hey everyone, my name is Elissa. Welcome to my channel. This is Petite Reads. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returner, thank you for coming back. I am doing a video for Romance Week because this week is Romance Week on Goodreads, and we all know I love romance books. I can't shut up about them on Instagram, on Twitter, on the blog, on here. It is the genre that I currently read the most and I'm the most obsessed about. If it's done properly, I think it can be very great, and it's not all just smut and sex and all kinds of tawdry things, but you can really delve into very serious topics and conversations that need to be had, but still balance it out. You know, kind of like fanfic. Fanfic can be done really well, be very smutty, but in the midst of all the sex, you have good stuff. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I really love romance. I have filmed this video before, and the last time I had, what's this stuff? Lipstick all over my teeth. So all that footage is kaput, it's trash, because you could see it right here. And because I have the gap, it brings even more attention to it. So we're filming this again 2 days later. And this video is going up later than expected, but that's okay. So let's jump into it. So the first category I'm going to recommend is sports romances. And the first one is going to be the Denver Rebels series by Maureen Smith. I've mentioned these books before. I am totally in love with them. It is about a hockey team. And so far, the romance pairings have been black woman, white man, and just, you have different things that it deals with. Some of them deal with, you know, trash exes. Some of them deal with two people in high-powered careers and navigating your schedules, and a bit of former parental abuse, and families navigating when someone comes out. You have dealing with being someone who grew up in the foster system, so lots of different layers there. But I love the writing. I love that the characters are fully fleshed out and developed, and they're kind of like all interconnected. So the first book, the characters of the second book is the cousin and the teammate of the people who are in the first book. So I love that series so much. Who doesn't love a hockey bae? I think my favorite so far is the second book, which is the Swede. Just because Scarlett, the main character, is a blurred, and she's in this rock band, and she just has this gorgeous, sweetest guy. And normally I don't like blondes, but this gorgeous, sweetest guy who wants to play Thor to her Misty at Comic-Con. It's like, what? Like, yo, what kind of, that's real love right there. So all this crap about blurs not getting love and they're not being blurred women is trash. But also, us blurry women deserve some romance too. So I'm here for that. And there's also Intercepted by Alexa Martin. And there is Fumbled coming out, I believe, next month or the month after next. She is a former football wife, so she's a WAG, Wives and Girlfriends in Sports. And this book is about a WAG who ends up getting dumped, and her one-night stand comes back, and he just like is her knight in shining armor, but she's dealing with like being on her own, getting her career popping off, and getting on her own 2 feet and finding out who she is, not in a relationship, but still letting her one-night stand, who was the one who got away, kind of wound and swoon her and wine and dine her, but also dealing with a trash ex who is your typical, stereotypical football player who, you know, leaves behind the chick who held him down and supported him all these years and thought he would be better and do better and could be better and didn't. So yeah, I like the romance and how it develops there, and that it doesn't take away from her as a person. I would say as far as smut goes, we were a bit on the tamer side, so if you don't like anything that's too graphic, this would be good for you, as opposed to the Denver Rebels series, which you're like, yeah. So those are my 2 sports picks. Next, we're gonna do Friends to Lovers, and it's another Maureen Smith book. It's in the Wolfpack world genre. And this one is 10 to Me at Midnight. It's these friends. They've been friends since college, or maybe even before college, but we're going to say college. She went to Spelman. He went to Morehouse. And he's been like the playboy and could never hold down a relationship. She's always been there, but he's always been low-key in love with her, but just could never get his shit together. Finally, she's single. They have a moment at midnight, and they try to blame it on alcohol because they're like, we've been friends for 20 years. We don't want to ruin this. And you see it progress where they start to not fight their feelings, but you also have her dealing with her just having trash parents and working through all of the things that come with that, even in adulthood, and him still being the supportive person, supportive friend he is. But they are my favorite pairing in the Wolfpack world. Quentin and, oh gosh, what is her name? Lexi. Yes, Quentin and Lexi. Because I call him Q. I was going to say Q and Monica, but that's Love and Basketball. But yeah, Quentin and Lexi are my favorite. And they have another book and then like a novella about them too later on in the world, which I love so much. Yes, and she's a Michelin star, like high-powered celebrity chef, and he's this badass lawyer. So yes, Black people doing things. I'm here for this. The next would be the Cinderella trope, or your pretty woman trope, and that is the Kiss Quotient. I have rambled about that for like 15 minutes. I have a review that I'm going to link somewhere here. But this is about a woman who's somewhat she's on the autism spectrum, and she wants someone to teach her how to touch, how to be in a relationship, because she feels that she's stunted, but she also believes that, if you just practice anything, that you can get better at it. And so she hires a male escort to teach her how to be better at sex, better at relationships, and of course they fall in love. He grew up more lower class, and this chick she has a PhD, works for all these big companies, is clearly making 6 figures, a trust fund baby. So it's nice to see like the power dynamics between them and the flipped gender roles as well, because typically you have the rich guy coming in and saving the woman instead. And also, I think that is the first romance I read with 2 Asian characters, although they're from different ethnic groups. Typically, if I read a book with Asian characters, it's been Asian man, Black woman, Asian man, white woman. So it's nice to see 2 Asian people in a romance together. And the smut was really well written too. So yeah. Next up, we have our historical fiction genres. So the first I'm going to recommend is Outlander. I love Outlander. It is amazing. We hit books 5 and 6 where you kind of lose me, with recovering America during the Revolution and, slavery and racism. I'm like, did Diana really write this? But in the beginning, I love it. I love Jamie. I love Claire. I love Lord John Grey. That is my baby daddy. That is Jamie's baby daddy. He is the best baby daddy in the whole world, and all these other hoes can never. Claire can never, and Claire is Jamie's soulmate. I love them so much. If you don't know what Outlander is, it's about this World War II nurse. Her and her husband traveled to Scotland to reconnect after the war, because they spent all their marriage. They got married, then the war broke out, so they spent like 8 years apart, only spending like 3 days together every year. So reconnect. There is a tale in Scotland. There's these stones, and you can time travel to certain parts of the year. Homegirl skeptical, she goes to check it out, falls into the stone because, what else do white women do? And she finds herself in the 1700s during the Jacobite Rebellion in Scotland. And in order to save her hide, she has to marry this Scottish rebel, the Scottish outlaw named Jamie, who is just the feminist's husband to our prayers, especially because it's the 1700s. But Jamie is bae, and just so y'all know, homegirl had the opportunity to go back into the future, and she gives it up. She gives up running water, electricity, heat, vaccinations for this man. That is real love. A really good dick, but real love too. That's real love. So yes, that is something you should read. The second is A Civil War series by Elissa Cole. My favorite one is not Hope Divided, An Unconditional Love. Yes, An Unconditional Love. It stars Ellen and Malcolm. Ellen is pretending to be an enslaved woman to help the Union, and Malcolm is pretending to be a Confederate soldier to help the Union. You have different power structures there, because she ends up pretending to be his slave at one point, but very much she we can't let our personal feelings in this relationship that we have going on interfere with the cause, and there's something much bigger. And I appreciate a romance, especially a historical romance, that uses actual historical events as the backdrop, but also doesn't let the characters forget their purpose. And you see that throughout all the books in the series. And actually, yesterday, Elissa Cole tweeted the cover for the book that's coming out in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's been 84 years, but you keep putting out new stuff. Because she's published, I think, 5 other books within the last year or whatever. And I've read all of them. All but one. And I get a DM and she's like, hey, do you want an e-arc of, was it an Unconditional? No, what is the last book? It just came out. Well, it's coming out. No, maybe that's an Unconditional Love. No, Unconditional Freedom. Yes. And I was like, what? Seriously, you just made my whole week. And she really did. And I've been reading it, and it's very heavy because it's about a man who was born free and then ends up becoming enslaved during that time. And he eventually gets his freedom. We're introduced to him in the first book because that was Ellen's first romance. But I'm very curious to delve into his story and see how he deals with that trauma and just heartache and disgust. But I love her writing. I love all of her historical fiction. She also has a novella called Agnes Moore's Wild Night, something. I don't know. I'll link it below. I've talked about it before too, but it was so good. Yes. And then I have my royal suggestions. So the first is going to be the Reluctant Royal series by Elissa Cole as well. There's 4 or 5. No, there's 3 that's been published. And then 3 more that are coming out within the next couple months. So far, I would say my favorite is the last one, well, not the one before last that came out, which is A Duke by Default. You have a woman who was just a hot mess, who's finally getting her life together. She goes to Scotland to be an apprentice, and she ends up getting the hots for her boss. And he is a biracial Chilean-Scottish man, but was raised in a Chilean-Scottish household. I mean, a Chilean-Jamaican household, because he was raised by his Jamaican stepfather. So you have a lot of different intricacies there in terms of refugees and who belongs and who doesn't belong, and privilege that comes from being white passing, class privilege, and also wanting to resist falling for your boss because you want to turn over a new leaf, and intersecting those power dynamics, but also what happens when this family that you never really was curious about is thrown into your face, and how do you deal with that, and dealing with these 2 different parts of you. And also growing as a woman, as a person, leaving behind your childish ways and making a name for yourself outside of a man and outside of your family. And so I really appreciated that. But the whole series is great because the first one has a Black woman in STEM. The next one has a lesbian relationship, Black lesbians, 2 Black lesbians. When do you ever get that? And then the next one is a non-able-bodied person, and I think her love interest is Asian. Yeah, so we have all these different parts of diversity and really bringing humanity to the characters, and not using not using identity politics. It's just to mark a check, but delving in and being very intersectional and purposeful in the writing, which I appreciate. And then there is A Royal Chance. I do not remember who wrote it, but I will put it somewhere here. And it is basically, she's an actress, he's a prince. They meet at a party. They secretly date. They have to deal with crazy family drama and crazy exes, and I mean, we all know who this was inspired by, and it was published right before the royal wedding last year. So yes, we all know this is about Meghan and Harry. Well, a spin-off from them, but it was very cute. It is not a royal engagement, not a royal chance, and it's by Chance Carter. That's what it is. I gave it 4 stars just because it was so freaking cute. I wouldn't say it is the best thing I ever read in the world, but it brought me joy. It's fluffy, it's light. And it was it was just really good. And she has other Valentine's Day things and other world things too that I haven't read yet, but I plan to get around to. But this was a good one. This was a good royal one. So if you like Harry and Meghan, give that a try. And what else? What else? I want to say that's it. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, how could I forget? My favorite. It's the whole D.A. Young series. It's written by D.A. Young. It's the whole Men of Whiskey Row. I talked about this. These men are so fine. There's 3 brothers and then their adoptive parents / godparents and their younger sister. But their birth father was abusive. He killed their mom. And so you have them all in adulthood. They've all gone on to have successful careers in all their places. But they built a home in this place called Whiskey Row, Tennessee. And so they all end up taking the women they fall in love with there, which is why the story centers around there. But some of them live in D.C., some of them live in Tennessee, some of them live in New York. You have blondes, redheads, brunettes, all tall, gorgeous. And the women that they're with all have powerful careers. Some of them are trust fund babies. Some are kind of like making it on their own. Some are dealing with their weight issues. Some are dealing with like family drama. There's just so many different aspects of these, and it's very well written. I love how like I said, romance takes deep topics and topics that really need to be discussed and be talked about and bring some center. Yes, and the last one. Okay, last one, because the footage just shut off and I had somewhere to be 4 hours ago when I filmed this, but we're back to finish up. So the last book for my recommendation is Sweatpants Season by Danielle Allen, because everything I said before was fabulous, and I'm very excited to record. But this is about 2 people. What are their names? Kendall, where are you when I need you? Well, it's right here, but I wish I had my phone. It's about 2 people who are competing for a spot from this big publication to be one of the main writers. And so it's a male versus female perspective on dating and as millennials or 21st century or something along those lines. They are also in a photography class, sort of like a continuing education class by this world-renowned photographer. He wants it to kind of like help his students, but also with his writing. She is a freelancer and she wants to like take her images to the next level in her website and things like that. So you have them working as partners and they get along really well. And then she finds out that he is a part of this very problematic radio show. Sort of like, I would say, what's that thing that used to come on TV? Not with Ebro, but with Joe Budden, that dumb thing, or The Breakfast Club, like that. So like very problematic thing and stupid shit that men say and get away with. And he's not problematic, but all his friends are. He's like the chill one in the group. But it's like you're guilty by association. What are their names? Oh yes, Carlos and what was her name? Why can I not remember her name? Carlos and Aquila, that's what it is. Yes. Carlos and Aquila, those are their names. But he's guilty by association because, yeah, so we just got an interruption. But continuing, he's guilty by association. Carlos is because his homeboys are trash, and figuring out, where are your hard lines? When enough is enough? When do you stop? When do you say, I can't be with this person because although I feel something for them, the people who you're choosing to associate yourself with are like fucked up. And I think that topics like this are important to have in the current culture that we have of being bold, of being brazen, and of dismissing or invalidating the experience of people who are marginalized. Especially when it comes to race, when it comes to gender, sexuality, and how that intersects in dating and the fear that can exist in the dating world, and how when we say men are trash, it's not because we just think all men are terrible people, but statistics show us that, like, people that you date or who may catcall you may abuse you, may kill you. You may end up with a stalker. Like, these are fears that we have and dangers that can exist. And you just living your life and telling someone no can get you stabbed, can get you shot, can get you raped. So these are like all kinds of things that exist in our dating culture. And examining that in this book and what it means when you have a voice and you're just spewing out pure garbage and being like, yeah, it's okay to do that. No, it's not okay to stop people. No, it's not okay to interpret no as yes. No is no. It is always no. Like, just like yes is an answer and is a complete sentence, no is an answer and a complete sentence. But I really love the nuance of that and how Alan teased that out. And also just looking at how the character Akila used common images you see and how women are sexualized and flipped it and used it for men. And it still didn't have the same reaction or the same gaze that you would if you did that same thing for women. Because the cover of the book, I'm going to include it, but I'm staring at it right now, is a man who's ripped, complete abs, white t-shirt pulled up. You'll see it here. And you can see his box, the beginning of his boxers or boxer briefs, and then gray sweatpants and a dick print. Oh my gosh, it just keeps cutting off. So basically, what happens is Akila kind of examines like what it means for men to be sexualized and all that jazz. Because I've said this like 18,000 times and I want to make sure it doesn't cut off again. But I just love that view, like the female gaze of the male body and what it means to look at someone as just their anatomy and not as a person. You don't have a face, you don't have a personality. None of this exists, just from here to here. Yeah, and you should read it. It's one of the best books I've read. I was going to feel something else, but I'm not. I'm just going to tell you to read everything that Rebecca Weatherspoon has written, especially her Sugar Baby series, because I loved it so much. Kayla and Michael are amazeballs, and I just talked some more about them, but that footage got cut off, and I'm not going to press my luck. But thank you so much for watching. Continue to, ow, that hurt. It's time to end. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to come back for more rambles about romance and whatever else. Yeah, bye.